I'm Ian Prosser. I'm a Best Year Yet consultant. I've been working as a executive coach, team coach, change agent, however you want to describe it, in the corporate world for the best part of 30 years. And I'm here to talk about what I think the real potential of Best Year Yet is in the corporate world. And I'm joined here today by Guy Outram. Guy is the Managing Director of PPC. And Guy, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Ian. As Ian said, my name's Guy Outram. I'm the Managing Director of PPC worldwide for the UK. We're a global organisation providing employee assistance programmes to large corporates right the way through to the SME enterprise businesses. As a relatively new Managing Director, I wanted to find a way that I could engage my senior management team very quickly and get my philosophies across in a very succinct way, and Ian introduced me to Best Year Yet, and I think today is all about telling you a little bit about how successful that's been for us to date.
And while we were working together, really me acting as a coach to him and then helping him get his team set up to be using Best Year Yet as well, which they now all do, he got ennobled, elevated, whatever the expression may be, and made and given the position of Managing Director of PPC worldwide, which from my point of view was an absolute boon, because by this stage Guy and I were getting on very well, and he was loving using the tool and I was loving working with him, and we've been on kind of that journey together ever since.
That's right. Absolutely, yeah, spot on. I think for me it was very interesting that when I started to use the tool just as a one-on-one, I could quickly see the benefits and advantages of taking this out and using it amongst a group, and that was where our conversation started to go away from, if you like, a little bit from the standard coaching idea, but more into an intelligent management tool, and how we could use this product to track ourselves and track the successes and the disappointments, so that we can manage our business more efficiently.
And for me, perhaps the greatest single contribution to any organisation that Best Year Yet and Pro can make is it can deal with that disconnect. It can connect the strategy makers to the strategy deliverers in ways that I don't think people can possibly imagine. This is, I think, the way that you're looking at all this stuff, isn't it, Guy? So I just wondered if this matches your experience.
No, absolutely. I'll take it back to when we first started using it, and as a one-on-one, and trying to just trying to get people to understand how to set simple tasks and how to achieve those tasks and follow up on those tasks. That in itself really helped them to realise what they were doing on a day-to-day basis, and how much of that was of use to them, how much was worthwhile, and how much they were delivering on what they wanted to achieve in any given week or month. Mm-hmm. The difficulty for me, I think, was coming in as a relatively new managing director, was to how could I then put a team of 8 people together and ask them to deliver on what I saw as the vision of where we wanted to go as a business. When I started to think about that, what I realised was that as the director, if you like, of events, I needed to engage the other 8 people to make sure that they were the ones that were telling me how they were going to deliver on their goals and what the expectations were. I call it, we would call ourselves a senior management team as opposed to a board, and it's about SMT, senior management team connectivity, and we've lost that. Everyone was going off in their little silos and going and doing their jobs in the hope that they would achieve something, but no one was actually looking at the big picture and how we could pull that all together to make sure that each person's individual roles was actually beneficial to everyone else's roles. Mm-hmm. And we're already starting to see that. We're effectively only about 6 weeks into using this system properly, and we're already seeing the advantages of people not being able to achieve certain goals because someone else was holding them back, and they didn't realise they were being held back.
Yeah.
But now, through that connectivity, they've said, fine, I will get you what you need because I understand how important it is to the overall business and to your objectives.
Yeah.
So hugely valuable already.
Yeah, good, thanks. The other thing, which again, this is just my view, when I began to look at Best Year Yet and Pro producing results online, it's a golden child, I kind of think of it these days, is the other thing that occurred that it can give to executives is perhaps the most powerful appraisal tool that I've ever seen. Now I'm kind of a bit biased here, but it seems to me that, and certainly I've spoken to a number of companies, and we just asked them about how do you do appraisals, and usually there's a kind of a rolling of the eyes and a raising of the eyebrow, and a kind of a sheepish, well, we sort of do it, and it's sort of every 6 months or once a year. I was talking to a bank, and they said, yeah, well, people put in their development plans to their manager. Their manager is supposed to annotate and edit and send them back. And then 6 months later, there's a reminder comes through to the manager called, you're conducting your appraisal in 2 weeks. And in this organisation, they do what they call grandfather it, so that the manager's manager sits in. So he's appraising the manager on how he does his appraisals.
Absolutely.
You've experienced these things before.
And it's fascinating because just before meeting you, we were talking as a company about the way we do appraisals.
Yeah.
And we did a bit of a survey, and majority of the employees said we don't feel we get anything back from them, so therefore we don't look forward to them. For me, the problem has always been that when you go into an appraisal, which may be every 6 months, you remember the last month, but you don't. You haven't logged anything, and you can't really think back. So it's how you feel today, not how you felt 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And straight away, we started looking at this, and I said, well, we've got an appraisal tool here.
Yeah.
I could see it. You'd already noted it, and so because we're logging it, everything. This is not about performance managing per se to say you're doing something wrong, you must fix it. It's about helping people become better at what they do, and potentially rewarding people at the end and show them how well they've been doing right the way through a period of time.
Yeah.
So another example of how it can be used. You know, I'm the MD of the UK, and so obviously that's my piece, and that's where I want to achieve the most results. But we're a fast-growing company. We've taken on new business units around the globe, and they're all trying to integrate themselves. So how can we do that? And we probably haven't really had a global strategy to date because we've got these new business units. But that was the whole point. We went to Dallas about 3 weeks ago, had our first global conference, and started to put together some strategy. And I then introduced them all to Best Year Yet. And I said, well, if we want to do this across the globe, wouldn't it be much easier to do it with using an online service that we can all dip into at any point and have a look and see where we're at and what we're achieving? And especially when you're looking at different time zones as well, because it's not practical sometimes to call someone in Canada at the right time when you want to see it. But if you've got the goals laid out in front of you and you know what we're all trying to achieve, you can dip in and go and have a look and see where they're at, which may raise some questions and may raise some thoughts that, well, if you're doing something, however that might be and whatever strategy you're using, could that work in the UK or could that work in India or China? And then that'll open up some conversations as well. And as we went through this at the last management meeting, we have a particular client that has caused a few problems, shall we say, that we feel that if we don't stop saying yes to them the whole time, this will not be a profitable piece of business. But by having the guideline sitting there, it raised some questions. And we got into quite a heated debate, and 3 or 4 key actions came out of that we have to change, and we have to change the way we're doing things, and we've got to do it tomorrow. Now that would have probably carried on for another 3 or 6 months if we hadn't had that guideline there for us to focus on and have a look at.
And of course we're not talking about insignificant things here. You're talking about the whole legal way in which you structure your contracts, the whole way in which you initially engage with major organisations when you take them on, and
follow-up processes,
and how the whole follow-up process is, so this sort of thing doesn't happen again. Because what became clear is that it's an issue that this isn't the first time it's happened. Correct. But it actually brought it right to the surface, and you came out. And
potentially, this one was potentially it's a large UK contract, but it's potentially a huge global contract as well. Yeah. So if we don't get it right at the outset, it could damage the whole business or the whole contract going forward. Yeah. But it doesn't just affect that one contract. It now makes us understand that if we don't do these things all the time, we could be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah, very good, thanks. Yeah.